Imagine a single moment, July 20th, 1944. The entire fate of the world hangs on a fraction of an inch. A German colonel places a briefcase under a heavy oak table during a high command briefing. Moments later, a deafening explosion rips through the room, signifying the instant planned removal of the man who started World War II. This isn't the history we know. This is the timeline where the July 20th plot succeeds. Adolf Hitler is gone. The war still rages, but the single guiding hand of the Nazi machine has been severed. The biggest question isn't what happened to the bomb, but what happened in the power vacuum. Would the war stop, leading to a swift peace? Or would an internal struggle for command in Germany just prolong the suffering and redraw the borders of the coming Cold War? This is a deep dive into the profound consequences of Operation Valkyrie's success. In our reality, the July 20th plot was a desperate final act of conscience. Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg and his fellow conspirators were high-ranking officers who saw the catastrophic endgame of Hitler's rule. Their plan, codenamed Operation Valkyrie, was a detailed contingency framework designed to take over the government if civil order collapsed. The real-life attempt failed due to agonizing misfortune. That heavy oak conference table deflected the blast, and the meeting was held in a flimsy wooden barracks instead of the sturdy bunker that would have amplified the explosion. The plot was foiled. Stauffenberg and his co-conspirators were swiftly executed, and the war continued to its devastating conclusion. In our alternate timeline, we assume the bomb's placement was perfect. The Führer's command is immediately neutralized. The plot succeeds. The success of the assassination immediately triggers the Valkyrie protocols. This isn't a chaotic uprising. It's a procedural assumption of command. A group of conservative generals and administrators, who we'll call the July 20th Committee, move to secure the national command structure. Teleprinters across the Reich issue urgent, coded orders to military garrisons to contain all key loyalist leaders, including the SS head Heinrich Himmler and Air Marshal Hermann Göring. This action is met with immediate internal resistance. While the regular army, the Wehrmacht, largely complies with these legitimate-sounding military orders, the ideological forces of the SS and Gestapo resist the transfer of authority. We now enter a tense, system-wide struggle for control over military assets and communication lines. This delicate transfer of power has to succeed within 48 hours, or the chaos that follows will jeopardize the entire plan. So what happens next? Let's break it down into phases. Phase 1 is immediate diplomacy. The first act of the new government, led by General Ludwig Beck, is to contact the Western Allies, the United States, and the United Kingdom. Their goal isn't just peace, but a strategic cessation of hostilities on the Western Front. The military leaders propose an immediate ceasefire, allowing the Western Allied forces to advance rapidly and unopposed into central Germany. In exchange, the new German army will pull its most seasoned divisions from France and the West to reinforce the Eastern Front against the Soviets. Churchill and Roosevelt are now faced with the ultimate dilemma. The goal of unconditional surrender is sacred, but accepting this deal would save millions of Allied lives and potentially reshape the post-war world by stopping the Soviet advance. Pragmatism prevails. The Western Allies agree to a conditional ceasefire and a swift advance, racing to secure territory before the Soviets can. This leads us to Phase 2, the redrawn map of Europe. The war concludes much sooner, likely in the spring of 1945. Because the new German command dedicates all remaining resources to holding the line against the Soviet Union, the final division of Europe, the Iron Curtain, is drawn much farther to the east than in our actual timeline. Crucially, Central European nations like Poland and Hungary, and perhaps large portions of East Germany, remain outside of the Soviet sphere of influence. This is the true prize of Operation Valkyrie's success, a vastly different and geographically more favorable starting position for the West in the Cold War. Stalin, seeing this rapid Western advance as a betrayal, immediately hardens his stance, and the Cold War begins in earnest the moment the fighting stops. Finally, we arrive at Phase 3, the moral ambiguity of this new peace. The new military government, having succeeded in ending the war, avoids the total, unconditional surrender that brought moral ruin and occupation to Germany in our timeline. The conspirators are not tried as traitors. They are cemented as national heroes, the men who rescued Germany from its ultimate folly. This narrative creates a lasting moral ambiguity. While the cessation of the systematic atrocities in the final months of the war saves countless lives, the new government is never forced to fully confront the depths of Nazi crimes. The damaging myth of the clean Wehrmacht, the idea that the regular German army was disconnected from the atrocities, persists in the national consciousness for generations. This new German state is a functional democracy, but it's one built upon a necessary and uncomfortable national lie. The success of the July 20th plot presents a profound moral paradox. Do we celebrate the end of a devastating war that saved millions of lives? Or do we condemn the political expediency that allowed a remnant of the German command to escape the full moral accounting of their nation's actions? For the average citizen in this alternate world, there's a complex sense of relief. The war is over, but the air is thick with uncertainty about the future direction of the fractured continent. I have one final question for you. Given this outcome, millions of lives saved but a complete moral reckoning avoided, was the successful coup ultimately a net good for the world? Would you trade a clear moral victory for a pragmatic, less destructive peace? The greatest historical turning points often hinge on such fine ethical lines. The failure of one small device saved Hitler, but its success would have defined the post-war world. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do the ends justify the means? Was preventing Soviet expansion into Eastern Europe worth the cost of Germany avoiding unconditional surrender? And make sure to subscribe to the channel. History is a chain of fragile events. The courage of a few men on July 20th, 1944, held the potential to save the world from total destruction and dramatically redefine the map of the 20th century. Next time, we'll dive into a thought experiment that challenges the very foundation of American governance. What if America became a monarchy? You won't want to miss that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next timeline.